Alright, today we're going to talk about the Sakhir Grand Prix 2020. Now, first of all, don't be weirded out by the new frame. I'm not in Bombay right now. I'm on a break that I've taken, but I still have to do these videos that I've promised you to do. So let's do this. The Sakhir Grand Prix 2020. This is again happening at the Bahrain International Circuit. It is a different track layout. It is not the same as the Bahrain Grand Prix that traditionally happens. It is an outer circuit to the original track, and it is a very short circuit. The lap times here are below 55 seconds. In qualifying, it went down to 53.3 seconds. Pole position was grabbed by Valtteri Bottas. Now, in the build up to the qualifying session, it was increasingly looking like it was between Bottas, Russell, and Max Verstappen. George Russell, in his first weekend in a Mercedes car, looked mightily impressive in free practice session 1, free practice session 2. He topped the charts. In free practice session 3, he was trying a few things which did not eventually work out, but he did not make it to the top 3 in FP3. But despite that, he was looking increasingly good in that Mercedes-Benz car, and it was looking that he can take the fight to Valtteri Bottas for pole position. Unfortunately, he couldn't. He missed out on pole position by a very meager margin of 0.26 seconds. Now, Bottas grabs a very important pole position. What would have happened if he would have missed out on pole and George Russell would have gotten that pole position? That is for everyone to talk about, because Bottas and Russell are in direct competition for 2022. Bottas's contract ends after the next season. Mercedes have renewed him just for another year for the 2021 season. His contract gets done then, and Mercedes are looking at George Russell to prospectively, replace him and partner Lewis Hamilton come 2022. Let's see how that pans out. But for now, George has done a very impressive job in putting his car up there in the first row along with Valtteri Bottas, and he will be right in the mix come tonight when the race happens, and we see what. Who can go and win this particular race. Max Verstappen finishes in P3. He might be slightly disappointed, to be honest, because throughout the weekend, it was increasingly seeming like the Red Bull car has the pace, especially on the mediums and on the hard tires when the cars were doing the race sims. It was increasingly looking that the Red Bull car has the race pace to take the fight to the Mercedes. Unfortunately, in qualifying, he couldn't do so. But the good thing here is Max is qualified P3, which means he will be on the used part of the track. So if you look at the grid, P1, P2, P3, P4. The guys in the even number of rankings are on the right side of the track, which is not rubbered down, because when the cars do the practice runs, they are on the left side of the track, which means that is rubbered down, and that will give more grip to the drivers on that side of the circuit. On the right side, the even number cars will have their work cut out in terms of when the lights go out, they will have to get their launch perfectly. The ones on the left side of the track, Valtteri Bottas, Max Verstappen, and everyone in the odd numbers will have a very good chance of overtaking the ones who are on the right. Max Verstappen in P3. Then we go to P4, which is Charlie Leclerc. Now, I think he has just punched above his weight yet again, and Ferrari must be thinking, wow, P4 is not something that we were looking at, because Sebastian Vettel, his other teammate, ended up in P13. So I think it was just one of those things where he caught a toe from someone in front of him and managed to hook up a lap that no one saw coming. So Charlie Leclerc will be in P4. I don't think so he's going to finish in P4, because he has cars behind him who are much quicker than him on race pace. So it might not be that he finishes in P4, but if he does, it is going to be one heck of a race for him. Sergio Perez, after his heartbreak last week in Bahrain, after his power unit failure, starts in P5. Daniel Kvyat, the Alpha Tauris looked really fast this weekend. This outer circuit is seemingly suiting their cars very well. Daniel Kvyat is in P6. That is a very impressive P6 for him. Daniel Ricciardo, again, the fight of P3. in the constructors, with McLaren leading the way right now, Racing Point chasing them, and Renault chasing them. Daniel Ricciardo reaches and starts in P7. Now, just touching upon this rivalry for P3 in the Constructors' Championship, McLaren are ahead in the Constructors' standings right now. Racing Point are right behind them, and they have both their drivers in Q3 in the top 10 as of this race. Sergio Perez is in P5 and Lance Stroll is in P10. So Renault have just one driver in the top 10, that is Daniel Ricciardo. Esteban Ocon missed out and starts in P11. Lando Norris had some problems and will start in P15. Carlos Sainz is the only McLaren in the top 10. So this is again building up to be a very interesting one for the constructors' point of view, and we'll see what happens for them. Alexander Albon. Now, if you think that Max Verstappen has a car under him which he can take to third on the grid, Alexander Albon has only managed to reach P12. Now, that is disappointing in every sense, because he got a podium last week and everyone might be thinking, okay, this is what he needs to get through his tough times and build up towards a much stronger weekend for Red Bull this time around. But that again does not seem to be happening. Let's see what happens in the race. But honestly, I don't know. I just think Alexander Albon has run out of time, and maybe Sergio Perez does deserve his seat for next season. I mean, maybe keep Albon as a reserve driver and try Sergio Perez for a few races next season can be a way that Red Bull look to go. I mean, it'll be really sad if Sergio Perez does not get a seat after everything that he's achieved this season. It has been a mega season for him, despite the heartbreak in Bahrain, and he's still pulled that Racing Point to places where nobody could have imagined. So yeah, last word for a couple of rookie drivers who stepped in this jigsaw of Formula One because Hamilton tested positive and had to leave his seat. George Russell came from Williams to Mercedes, and his seat is now filled by Jack Aitken. Jack Aitken is a Formula 2 driver, and he's a Williams racing driver, and he will be running in George's car this weekend. He unfortunately finished only P18, but that he has a very unique piece of record that he can take away from this. He is ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, now the youngest driver in Formula One with no experience whatsoever, finishes ahead of a driver who is the most experienced in the sport with the most amount of laps and the most amount of races. That is something to remember for Jack Aitken. Another special mention for Pietro Fittipaldi, who is stepping in for the injured Romain Grosjean from last weekend, who has a few burns and a few rib issues from this crash last weekend. He stepped into Romain's car for this particular weekend, and he will be starting at the back of the grid. You can't really expect much of these guys because they've just been thrown into the deep end, and these cars are also not very competitive. So he'll be looking to do something interesting on this race day to make a name for himself. Otherwise, it is going to be very plain sailing for them. All right, race tonight at the Sakhir Grand Prix circuit at 10:30 Indian Standard Time. Yeah, it's a night race. It's going to be late night if you want to watch the race. Go and watch the Formula 2 sprint race today as well. That is, the title is going to be decided there today between Mick Schumacher and Callum Ilott. So that's going to be pretty interesting. But yeah, that's about it for today. We'll catch up again tomorrow to talk about what exactly happens in the race. Cheers.